During my postgraduate studies, I got involved with a man at a nightclub. For money, I became his hidden lover. Once I graduated successfully, I vanished without a trace. 5 years later, I became the attending doctor for his fiancée. He asked, "Why did you leave back then?" "Got bored." "Then why are you still wearing the necklace I gave you?" I had rehearsed my reunion with Jian Zichuan countless times in my mind. So, when I actually saw him in the hospital room, I appeared particularly calm and composed. Except for the greasy hair I hadn't washed in 3 days and the dark circles under my eyes almost drooping to my feet, which somewhat ruined the atmosphere. He stayed by Jian Yang's side without leaving, looking very doting. When Jian Yang saw me, his deathly pale face showed a flicker of emotion, and he feigned surprise in his tone. "Sister Qingqian, it really is you." Jian Zichuan didn't speak, not even bothering to lift his eyelids. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw him smile slightly, as if mocking. "Long time no see, Jian Yang." I still wore my trademark smile, the one that used to irritate Jian Zichuan. Back then, for some inexplicable reason, he once pinched my face in anger and said, "Qingqian, do you smile like that at everyone? Aren't you tired?" Instinctively, I tried to smile again, but my cheeks hurt and I hissed. He nervously let go of his grip and gently cupped my face. "You don't have to please anyone, especially me." 5 years is neither too long nor too short. Seeing him today, it felt like half a lifetime had passed. "My sister's heart surgery. Are you the one doing it?" Jian Zichuan's tone was devoid of warmth, radiating an aura of indifference. "It's not certain yet. I hope it's not you." Before I could finish speaking, Jian Zichuan interrupted, his voice cold as ice. Who knows what Dr. Cheng might do to Jian Yang? After leaving the hospital room, I took a few deep breaths, leaning against the wall for a moment until my tense nerves slightly relaxed. Recalling what Jian Zichuan had just said, I couldn't help but laugh. Yes, he must still remember how I left Jian Yang to die back then. I had forgotten he should hate me. I left without a word, only a note that read, "Let's break up. I'm bored." The words were scrawled carelessly. How could the proud Mr. Jian tolerate such humiliation? The first time I met Jian Zichuan was in a nightclub. I was drinking with a guest he had brought. At the time, I was being exploited by my supervisor and struggling financially. To not interfere with my hospital internship during the day, I found a job in sales at the nightclub. That night, I didn't want to be touched by his companion, but the man, drunk and unsteady, swung his hand to slap me. Unfortunately for him, he missed and fell flat on his face. In the process, he accidentally pulled off my wig, revealing my bald head. The situation was so absurd that no one knew what to laugh at first. I crouched down, hurriedly picked up the wig, and deliberately put it on backward, causing another round of laughter. I joined them with an awkward smile, and when I looked up, I caught sight of Jian Zichuan sitting in the middle, lightly flicking the ash from his cigarette, staring at me expressionlessly. Everyone in that place knew him. He was said to be a businessman who often brought different people for entertainment. His stare sent a chill down my spine, so I looked away. That night, I drank until the room spun, and in my daze, someone supported me. "Where do you live? I'll take you home." I thought he was trying to take advantage of me, so with my remaining consciousness, I pushed him away and cursed, "Go to hell." Before I could see his face clearly, I passed out on the floor. When I woke up the next day, I found myself alone in a hotel room, my clothes intact. That night, I saw Jian Zichuan again. While someone was forcing me to drink, he was sitting in the opposite booth, whispering something to a pretty girl, making her laugh heartily. I coughed and choked, and the guest pouring the drink seemed pleased with my distress and finally stopped. Manager Hao hurriedly pulled me away, his eyes darting nervously, whispering, "Jian Zichuan wants to see you. He's a big client. You can't offend him. Can you drink a lot?" Jian Zichuan's voice cut through the noisy music, reaching my ears. I stood opposite him, suppressing my aversion, and greeted him with a habitual smile. Jian Zichuan's eyes were calm as he pointed to a few bottles of liquor on the table and said, "Drink them all." I was stunned for a moment, then smiled and agreed. All right. A waiter thoughtfully handed me a glass, but I pushed it away. Thanks, but I can drink straight from the bottle. Drinking directly was faster and earned more money. With that, I lifted a bottle and started chugging. Jian Zichuan watched me with interest, saying nothing. I was used to this. People came to places like this to have fun, and making myself part of the fun was how I earned my money. Halfway through, I wobbled to my feet. Mr. Jian, I need to use the restroom. Going to make yourself throw up? No. I closed the bathroom door and immediately stuck my finger down my throat, vomiting until I felt faint. When I came out, Jian Zichuan was leaning against the door, his gaze intense. Actually, if you said you couldn't drink anymore, I wouldn't force you. A bottle of XO earned me 300, only an idiot wouldn't drink it. I was about to say something to defuse the situation, but before I could even smile, Jian Zichuan had me backed against the wall. Surprisingly, he smelled of fresh pine and a faint hint of mint, a cool scent that filled my nostrils. You're quite interesting. Mr. Jian, you're drunk. He chuckled softly, bending down to whisper in my ear, yes. And then he tried to kiss me. My mind cleared instantly, and I pushed him away forcefully. He hit the wall with a thud, groaning in pain, looking at me in disbelief. I retched again. His mouth twitched, his face showing an expression that said, "Do I disgust you that much?" I looked up and blinked apologetically at him. I just threw up, so my mouth smells. If you don't mind. His dark, slightly cold eyes stared at me, unabashed and direct. In the silent, prolonged stare, I held my breath, my fingers curling slightly out of fear. After a long moment, he finally spoke. No rush, we have plenty of time. Director Zhang of the Cardiology Center found me and asked me to perform Jian Yang's surgery. Qingqian, how long have you been at Funan Hospital? 5 years. 5 years ago, Director Zhang poached me from my previous hospital, prompting me to leave my hometown and head south. I knew she had plans to groom her own people. The patient has severe aortic valve stenosis. If you can successfully perform this minimally invasive valve replacement surgery, it will be very beneficial for your personal development. Following up with some academic papers, the position of Deputy Director of Cardiology is not out of reach. Director Zhang's words were sincere, but I clenched my fists tightly. Director, has the patient's family agreed to me performing the surgery? Director Zhang gave me a look. He didn't object. Why? Do you know each other? As I left the office, I ran into Jian Zichuan pushing Jian Yang in a wheelchair. Sister Qingqian. Jian Yang's eyes were filled with wariness. It seemed he already knew I was going to be the lead surgeon. I kept my face cold. In the hospital, I'm just a doctor. The surgery is scheduled for next Monday morning. If you have any questions, talk to the attending physician. Jian Yang's face grew even more ashen. I glanced at Jian Zichuan beside him and caught his gaze. His eyes were like cold ice as he said slowly, Dr. Chung is truly impartial. I didn't respond and turned to leave. Behind me, Jian Yang's tearful voice called out, Brother, do you think Sister Qingqian is mad at me? I'm a bit scared. Jian Zichuan's tone softened dramatically. Don't worry, she won't do anything. A sourness welled up in my heart that I couldn't suppress. Back in my office, I forced myself to focus, but my mind was in turmoil. Instinctively, I reached for the necklace around my neck. It was a pendant of a calico cat, a bit rusty, with one eye missing. I had never told anyone I liked cats, but Jian Zichuan had figured it out. During my internship at the hospital, we rarely had time to go on dates. One time, in a mall, I immediately noticed this necklace. You like cats, but don't dare to have one because you can't handle the idea of separation through death, he said, seeing right through my concerns, and put the necklace on me. Although my collarbone felt cool, my heart warmed as if it could grow lush with grass. This one won't die or get sick. It can always be with you. He lightly kissed my face with a tender cherishing. Qingqian, you have me too. I couldn't allow myself to dwell on it anymore. Nor could I let myself get entangled again. I took off the necklace and put it in my pocket, then went to the ward to find Jian Zichuan. Come with me. Jian Zichuan looked surprised to see me. Bitterly, I thought I must be tired from work, seeing a hint of expectation in his expression. I won't be doing Jianyang's surgery. His dark lashes lowered, eyes becoming icy. What do you mean? Get someone else. I don't want people to know we know each other. Despite his effort to control it, I could hear the anger in his cold voice. Say that again. You came all the way from Beijing with a heart patient to Shenzhen. I might believe it was for Funan Hospital, but why are you constantly bothering me? Don't tell me you love me. I forced a light tone. Stop bothering me, Jian Zichuan. I'm about to get married. My fiancé is a rich man. Can you not interrupt my pursuit of happiness? Jian Zichuan abruptly raised his eyes to look at me, shock rippling in the dark depths of his gaze. After a while, he seemed to have adjusted his emotions, reverting to his cold and aloof demeanor. I wouldn't obsess over someone heartless and selfish for 5 years, nor would I chase after anyone. I was willing to let you perform the surgery because you were somewhat familiar with Jianyang's condition a few years ago. I didn't expect it to give you such fanciful ideas. Since that's the case, I don't mind finding someone else. I smiled bitterly in my heart. Of course, I knew he hated me to death. How could he possibly have feelings for me? He was simply too proud to let me misunderstand him like this. Just like back then, when Manager Hao sent me to Jian Zichuan's house and I mistakenly thought he had bought me, I lashed out at him. Even if you get Manager Hao to tell the school I sell alcohol at a nightclub, even if I'm expelled, you can't threaten me. I suppressed my fear, determined to fight back, gritting my teeth as I spoke. If you have the guts, kill me. My voice echoed in the vast living room. Jian Zichuan, wearing a black robe with a half-open collar, looked like he had just showered. Water droplets slid from his slightly messy hair down to his collarbone. He leaned against the entrance, his tone identical to today's. Manager Hao took it upon himself to sell you. Don't blame me. I wouldn't resort to such tactics for a woman who exudes nothing but poverty. Take your fake dignity and get as far away as possible. Lowering my head, I saw my pilling cotton socks, and a wave of humiliation surged through me, making my blood boil. Jian Zichuan's phone ringing broke the awkward silence. I didn't know Jianyang at the time, but I noticed the sudden softness in Jian Zichuan's tone. Yang, does your chest hurt a lot? The ambulance will arrive in about 10 minutes. Hang in there. Jian Zichuan suddenly handed me the phone, looking uncharacteristically helpless. I heard you're a medical student. Can you tell her what to do to ease the pain? I hesitated but took the phone. That day, I saw Jianyang in the hospital for the first time. She had just been resuscitated and was lying on the hospital bed. When she saw me behind Jian Zichuan, a faint dimple appeared on her pale cheeks, making her look incredibly sweet. While Jian Zichuan was handling the admission procedures, Jianyang, who had seemed so gentle moments before, suddenly became distant. My brother is quite the scumbag. Since you helped me, I'll kindly remind you not to get serious with him. She casually flipped her hair, a smile playing on her lips. I don't care how many girlfriends he has. In the end, he has to marry me. At that time, I didn't know they weren't blood-related siblings, just slightly shocked by their family dynamics. I gave a faint smile and countered, "Don't worry, everyone knows he's no good. I'm only after his money." Jianyang's face turned pale, her eyes filled with contempt. That night, Jian Zichuan drove me out of the hospital. Perhaps because I had helped him, he was unusually friendly. Did Jianyang say anything to you just now? Her? She was quite polite. I retorted sarcastically. She's been spoiled since she was young. I hope you can understand. Also, it wasn't me who called you over tonight. If I had any intentions towards you, you wouldn't have woken up safe and sound in the hotel after getting drunk that night. I paused, realizing that the man who had offered to take me home that night was him. I looked at him warily. Why are you so interested in me? Or rather, what do you see in me? He stared at me with interest for a while before finally looking away. Just curious why you're so eager to please. Don't worry, I won't bother you again. Under the night sky, the dim streetlights cast long shadows of the two of us. But if you still want to work in that place, it's best not to reveal our connection. At least then, your manager won't make things difficult for you. His dark eyes sparkled, seemingly holding some strange emotion. I looked away, my heartbeat irregular. I tried to act nonchalant and joked, "What's this, a secret lover scenario?" "Just trying to help you out." I raised my eyes and met his deep, unfathomable gaze. "What's your name?" "Cheng Qian." "Cheng Qian, let me formally introduce myself. I'm Jian Zihuan." "Cheng Qian, I'll pretend I never heard your name in my life." Jian Zichuan's voice pulled me back to reality. He was furious, his tone cold and resolute. Even his familiar angry expression was intensely triggering my memories. I really couldn't let this drag on any longer. I took a deep breath and pretended to be cheerful. "Oh, that's great. Never see you again." I turned to leave, but unexpectedly, the cat necklace fell out of my chest pocket and rolled on the ground. I panicked, quickly squatting down to pick it up, but Jian Zichuan had already gotten to it before me. My mind went blank, buzzing with emptiness. He held the necklace, his eyes narrowing as he examined it closely. After a while, he suddenly laughed. "Cheng Qian, what the hell is this?" I panicked and muttered, forgot to throw it away, before fleeing the scene. Back in the office, my heart was pounding wildly, feeling like I had been caught in a compromising situation. After calming down, I wished I could slap myself. Could my excuse have been any worse? Instinctively, I touched my neck, now empty. My heart felt the same, empty. For a long time, I had convinced myself that keeping that broken necklace was merely out of habit. But with Jian Zichuan's reappearance, my abnormal reactions forced me to admit that I cared about him. But so what? He and Jianyang were already a done deal. If life had taught me anything over the past few years, it was to remain rational and extricate myself before things spiraled out of control. Young Cheng Qian had suffered too much for failing to do this. Because I had become Jian Zichuan's lover, manager How indeed didn't dare trouble me anymore. Jian Zichuan still appeared intermittently, and each time, manager How would call me over to sit with him. I got many chances to observe him. His expression was always weary, as if he was merely forcing himself to smile for the sake of business. Could someone of his status also be enduring such compromises? "Mr. Jian, do you really find this place so interesting?" One time, when he was slightly tipsy, I intentionally asked him. He squinted at me. "Depends on who I'm with." "Who you're with?" He didn't respond, just kept staring at me. I assumed he was too drunk, so I turned my head away, missing the deepening darkness in his gaze. In the last 6 months of my 3rd year of graduate school, I had no time to work part-time, and Jian Zichuan gradually faded from my life. Until the day my thesis defense ended. A few classmates invited me to a bar in the southern part of the city to celebrate, and unexpectedly, I ran into him again. He was with a new group of people, having wild fun, still not talking much. Strangely, in a crowd, he was the first one I noticed. That day, I didn't wear makeup and had on black-rimmed glasses and a drab gray coat. I didn't intend to attract his attention. He probably wouldn't recognize me anyway. Halfway through, my classmates went dancing, but I was exhausted from several nights of sleeplessness and fell asleep. When I woke up, a man's jacket was draped over me. Jian Zichuan sat next to me, his hand propping up his chin, looking at me with amusement. Startled, I jumped up. He pulled me back down, his hand naturally patting my head. "Don't be scared, fuzzball. You're like a sleeping god. How do you sleep through such loud music?" My mind was in a fog. Instinctively, I replied, "I might be too tired." He raised an eyebrow and touched my forehead, a sudden coolness spreading through me. "Do you know you're sick?" He tightened the clothes around me, then pulled me up and led me towards the door. "Let's go. You need a proper rest." "No need. Just drop me home. Thank you." He gave me a meaningful look and nodded. After getting home, I took some medicine and collapsed into bed. In a daze, I sensed Jian Zichuan by my side. He came over occasionally to change my fever patch, gently touching my head and muttering to himself. Strange, why is she still burning up? The next morning, I felt slightly better. As I went to the living room to get some water, I saw Jian Zichuan sleeping soundly on the couch, wearing only a white tank top, exposing a large expanse of pale skin. He really made himself at home. I walked over and called, "Mr. Jian, time to get up." He didn't move. I crouched down and poked him with my finger, accidentally touching his abs. My face burned with embarrassment. "Jian Zichuan, time to wake up." I couldn't resist poking again. It was firm and solid, quite addictive to touch. I inwardly laughed at myself. "Qing Qian, you're really desperate." Just as I was about to get up, Jian Zichuan grabbed my hand. "Where are you going?" His voice was hoarse, and his ears had a hint of red. I felt my whole body heat up, trying to pull my hand away. "Let go." "Then tell me, how many men have you brought home before me?" I rolled my eyes. "Who brought you home?" "You came with me." He kept staring at me, clearly wanting an answer. After a moment of stalemate, I sighed. "The first one." He barely smiled. "I actually want to be the last one too." I looked at the half-naked man in front of me, swallowed hard, and stammered, "Are you crazy?" He seemed satisfied and finally let go of me, getting up and pushing me into the bedroom. "Lie down and rest. I'll make some noodles." That day, as I watched Jian Zichuan bustling in the kitchen, a strange sense of living a domestic life with him crept over me. The noodles were pretty good, and I ate a large bowl contentedly, teasing, "Poor Mr. Jian, you've probably never lived in such a small place before." He glanced around the room, reminiscing, "Over a decade ago, I lived in a place worse than this. We even had to empty the chamber pot in an outhouse every morning." Seeing my shocked expression, he added self-deprecatingly, "Then my dad married a wealthy woman, Jian Yang's mother. We went from rags to riches overnight. After they both passed away, it was just me and Jian Yang." Connecting the dots, I finally understood. "And over time, you fell hopelessly in love with your stepsister?" Jian Zichuan was speechless. "You've read too many novels. Did they rot your brain?" I looked at him suspiciously. "You really don't like her?" He paused, tilting his head thoughtfully, and said, "I like you." I shrugged and stood up to clear the dishes. Here we go again. But Jian Zichuan grabbed my hand. He looked up at me, our faces inches apart. My mind went blank. The moment lingered, then I was pulled into a warm embrace, hearing Jian Zichuan's clear and rapid heartbeat. His voice, clear as a spring, flowed into my ears. At this age, I can tell the difference between serious and just playing around. "Qing Qian, what about you?" I gently broke free from his embrace, trying to clear my head from the recent rush of feelings. I looked at him, like a hedgehog, half testing, half threatening. "I have no parents, no friends, usually keep to myself. Everyone says I'm a weirdo. You better stay away from me." To my surprise, Jian Zichuan's eyes darkened, and he took a deep breath, pulling me back into his arms. Adorable. After the necklace incident, I avoided Jian Zichuan like a guerrilla fighter, even asking colleagues to cover my rounds. When Jian Yang's surgery was over and she was transferred to the ICU, there was no chance of running into Jian Zichuan. Director Zhang, learning I hadn't performed Jian Yang's surgery, called me to her office and yelled at the top of her lungs. "Qing Qian, what are you doing?" I remained silent. She was exasperated with me. "Don't forget why I took you under my wing. It wasn't because your skills were exceptional, but because you had the dedication of a true doctor. And now, you're neglecting your duties over some personal issues. No matter what happened between you two, she is a patient first, and you are a doctor." I clenched my fists and stayed quiet. As I was leaving, Director Zhang said, "A person who aspires to be a good doctor must withstand great storms. Qing Qian, refine your character." Back then, when the hospital called, I was always the first to respond, even as a mere intern. Once, Jian Zichuan asked me why I wanted to be a doctor. I thought for a moment and replied, "I'm afraid of being forgotten. No one cares about an orphan, but they remember the person who saved their life." Jian Zichuan sighed, pulling me into his arms. "Modern-day Nightingale, don't worry, at least I'll remember." My eyes felt warm, and I hugged him back. Do you have any common sense? Nightingale was a nurse. Fine. Then you're the modern-day Bethune. Bethune was a man. Then you are. He looked at me, his eyes dark and bright, his tone becoming serious. A good doctor, Cheng Qian. A good doctor? Am I still a good doctor? I learned from Jian Yang's attending physician that she was recovering well post-surgery and had been transferred to a regular ward. Relieved, I asked for her room number, intending to take a distant look. As I approached the ward, I heard a heated argument inside. I hesitated at the door, unsure whether to stay or leave. I just had surgery, and you're already so impatient. Jian Yang's voice was weak, but filled with anger. Jian Zichuan, his back to the door, spoke with a restrained fury in his voice. Jian Yang, I'm your brother. I won't marry you, and there will be no wedding. Don't even think about it. You said you loved me. After seeing Cheng Qian, you can't hide your feelings anymore, can you? Brother, why did you send me to this hospital? Do you need me to expose you? My heart raced, and my hands clenched unconsciously. Do you think using me as a cover will make her pay more attention to you? She left you once, and you forgot the pain. I couldn't listen any longer and pushed open the door. Seeing me enter, both of them were shocked. Jian Yang, are you tired of living? You just had surgery and you're getting so worked up? As her family member, if you want her to recover quickly, don't agitate her. Jian Yang lay on the bed, her face ashen. Sister Cheng Qian, you're so kind. I didn't care for her sarcasm. If you don't want to see me, then get better and leave the hospital. We can go our separate ways. Yes, your brother and I dated, but everyone has a past. I'm about to get married. It's all in the past. What's your problem? Jian Yang calmed down, looking at Jian Zichuan. Hopefully. I glanced at him too, and our eyes met. I steeled my heart, ignoring the pain and sadness in his gaze, and turned to leave. But Jian Zichuan caught up with me in the corridor, blocking my way. Dr. Cheng, you're quite carefree, letting go just like that. I sneered. Yeah, have you not moved on? Jian Zichuan, so proud, I expected him to say, you're overthinking, or don't flatter yourself. Then I could say, wish you happiness, goodbye forever. Jian Zichuan looked at me, struggling to speak, and after a long pause said, no, I haven't. My expression froze, and my breath hitched. I asked around, you don't have a wealthy fiancé. Why did you lie to me? Exposed, I replied awkwardly, it's none of your business. He stared at me, his eyes cold, voice filled with suppressed anger. None of my business? Or did this fiancé appear because I showed up? He pulled out the cat necklace, eyes red, enunciating each word. And this necklace? It's been 5 years. Why haven't you thrown it away? Did you leave me because you were tired of me? I looked at Jian Zichuan's bloodshot eyes, silent. My heart, as hard as armor, slowly softened, on the verge of collapse. That was the second year that Jian Zichuan and I were together. He took me to his private party, where all the familiar faces from the business world were present. He introduced me to everyone as Cheng Qian, my girlfriend. People who had seen me at the nightclub couldn't help but sneer. Mr. Jian has such discerning taste. Jian Zichuan, holding my hand, retorted lightly, yes, so we need to reconsider our cooperation with your company. The man's face turned extremely ugly in an instant. He said, Cheng Qian, don't listen to what others say, just believe what I say. I nodded and gently squeezed his hand. Jian Yang was there too, exuding charm as she smiled and greeted me. Nice to see you again, Sister Cheng Qian. But when Jian Zichuan left, she whispered in my ear, I advised you before, don't take him seriously. I distanced myself and replied coldly, your advice is good, but I won't take it. For a moment, her eyes seemed to want to kill me. He will definitely agree to marry me. Don't you believe it? Let's try it together. Jian Yang suffered a heart attack in front of everyone. Clutching her chest, her expression twisted in pain, sweat beading on her forehead. Everyone was deceived by her superb acting skills, including Jian Zichuan. He held Jian Yang, looking a bit panicked. Yang, the ambulance will be here soon. Jian Yang lay weakly in his arms. Brother, Will you marry me? Jian Zichuan hesitated for a moment. Let's not talk about that right now. I stood among the crowd, feeling at a loss. When I arrived at the hospital, Jian Yang had already been admitted to the ward. As I was about to enter, I heard Jian Zichuan's gentle voice saying, "You are my fiancé." What happened with others was just an act. I stood outside the door, feeling as if I had fallen into an ice house. When Jian Zichuan came out of the ward, I was still standing there, unable to recover. Frowning, he said, "Jian Yang's condition isn't great. I'll go call the doctor." I entered the ward and saw Jian Yang lying on the bed, pretending to be weak. I said coldly, "Stop pretending." Jian Yang sat up, looking triumphant. "See, as long as I'm here, my brother won't be with any other woman. Let's make another bet. Do you believe my brother will kick you out?" I clenched my fists, feeling a numb despair in my heart. Jian Yang clutched her chest and screamed, "Help! Sister Chengqian, save me." When Jian Zichuan came in, he saw Jian Yang lying on the bed in pain and me standing opposite, coldly watching. He glanced at me, a fleeting hint of blame in his eyes. I could have pretended to care about Jian Yang, but I didn't want to. Maybe I was really gambling on whether he would really kick me out because of Jian Yang. After Jian Yang was out of danger, he asked me, "Why didn't you save her?" With resentment and testing in my heart, I asked, "What would you do if I didn't?" The atmosphere dropped to freezing point. After a long time, Jian Zichuan finally said, "You should go home first. I can't send you today." In that moment, it felt like the only support in my heart had shattered. No need to send me, and no need in the future. My voice was light but firm. Jian Zichuan paused slightly. He hadn't heard the hidden meaning, but I had already turned and left. When I was 5, I was adopted once. At that age, I only remembered that 2 pairs of hands holding mine were warm and solid. I thought I finally had parents. Later, they had their own children, and I was sent back to the welfare home. When I left, it was the lush spring, and when I returned, it was snowing. After that, someone wanted to adopt me again, but I hid in the bathroom and refused to come out. Slowly, I became the oldest orphan in the welfare home. The old director said, "Don't be afraid, it was just an accident before." I said, "Director, I'm tired." The director didn't know that for someone who could be abandoned at any time, even happiness felt like theft. I went to the front desk and borrowed paper and pen, hastily writing a sentence. "Let's break up. I'm tired of playing." After hesitating for a moment, I handed the note to the nurse. "Please deliver this to someone for me." After that, I boarded the plane to Shenzhen and cut off all ties with the past. Actually, I didn't have much of a past to begin with, and Jian Zichuan occupied a large part of it. Memories surged into my mind like a mountain collapsing, and I instantly snapped out of my hesitation. I snatched the necklace from Jian Zichuan's hand and threw it into the trash, without hesitation. If I had known it would be so troublesome, I would have thrown it farther away. Jian Zichuan looked stunned and hurt. "I told you about the fiancé because I was afraid you'd cling to me. But between adults, do we have to be so blunt? It's my fault. I haven't seen the truth yet. For someone as heartless as you, besides getting bored, what other reasons could there be?" Jian Zichuan's voice was low, but my heart felt suffocated as if deprived of air. The ice in his eyes returned, filled with resentment. I forgot the pain before the wound had healed. I took a deep breath, a smile not reaching my eyes. "Then you should thank me for helping you remember." The hospital found out about my past working in nightclubs. At first, the heavily made-up and scantily clad photos circulated only within the work group. But somehow, the rumors spread to the patients and their families. The gossip became more and more outrageous, with everyone eager to add fuel to the fire. The days of bedside care were boring and long, making such stories perfect gossip. I pretended not to hear the rumors and continued my work as usual every day. Until one day, when all the appointments I had were cancelled. Director Hao found me and advised me not to come to work for the time being. Chengqian, the hospital, is currently recruiting doctors for the Urban-Rural Partnership Program. Why don't you consider applying and temporarily leave the hospital? At least you won't have to hear the gossip, and it will be a kind of protection for you. I didn't know if this was just an excuse, but the hospital valued its reputation the most. If this matter continued to spread so negatively, my job would be at risk. The hospital gave me a week off. On the day I left the hospital, the whispers were already rampant and shameless. Oh, so someone like her can still be a doctor. Seems prim and proper on the surface, but up to no good behind the scenes. My hand clenched unconsciously beneath my clothes, nails digging deep into my palms. Have you said enough? Blood rushed through my veins, and every hair stood on end. If because of your rumors, I can no longer hold a scalpel, I'll switch to using a kitchen knife to chop you all up. I surveyed the silent crowd, my gaze sharp and terrifying. Someone said I was cold-blooded and ruthless. He was right, but when my eyes swept over one person, I froze for a moment. Jian Zichuan. His gaze at me was exceptionally cold at this moment. It must have been him. Besides him, who else could get those photos? And he hated me so much. I instantly lost my fighting spirit, my shoulders drooping, tears welling up in my eyes. Taking a deep breath, I turned and quickly walked out of the hospital. I didn't know how far I had gone until I encountered a singer playing guitar on a pedestrian bridge. She sang, "Love can only be piled up in memories." Finally, I squatted down, hugging my knees, letting tears stream down my face. Cheng Qian. A familiar voice sounded above my head. I looked up and saw Jian Zichuan, getting up and trying to leave. He grabbed my hand. I struggled desperately. "Let go of me. You've already taken your revenge. What more do you want?" He hesitated for a moment, then laughed bitterly. "Do you really think it was me? Is that what you think of me?" I cried, and as I thought about it, how could it have been him? A voice whispered in my heart. Thankfully, it wasn't him. Even I didn't know why I felt so relieved. Feeling embarrassed, I turned to leave, but he grabbed me again. "Let go. I look so ugly and messy now. I don't want anyone to see me." He reached out and gently wiped away my tears. "Who said that? I think you're adorable." He held my hand and led me down the bridge. "Where are we going?" "To the police station." On the way to the police station, I gradually calmed down and analyzed the situation. I looked at Jian Zichuan, who was driving beside me. "Are you really going to the police with me?" Jian Zichuan tightened his grip on the steering wheel. "Yes. If I go to the police, no matter how the law punishes her, I won't show mercy." The truth was already clear, and we both knew it. "I know. She's your sister. Why would you help someone else do this? Don't you find it ridiculous?" The car suddenly slammed to a stop by the side of the road. After a while, Jian Zichuan spoke, his voice sounding like he was at his limit. "Who cares who she is? All I want is for you to be safe." The sudden braking made my heart race uncontrollably. His eyes were bloodshot, filled with earnestness and fervor. "I've come to realize these past few days. You think I've grown tired of you, right? It's okay. You can treat me like air, like a stray cat or dog. Just don't let me leave you. Cheng Qian, I beg you." The hazard lights beeped incessantly, leaving only our intertwining breaths in the air. His gaze at me was fragile, yet hopeful. My emotions were complicated, my mouth dry. "Do you really think that I can allow Jianyang to be between us forever?" In a moment, he seemed to understand something, his voice hoarse. "So it's because of Jianyang? You were the one who left me first, don't you understand?" The tears of grievance finally couldn't be held back. In the less than 2 cubic meters of space, my voice echoed with a hint of tears. I failed. After pretending to be carefree for years, I couldn't keep up the act in front of his pleading. "I just want you to firmly choose me, Jian Zichuan. Don't you understand?" The next moment, I was pulled into Jian Zichuan's embrace. "I'm sorry. I should have realized." His arms trembled slightly as they tightened around me, as if afraid I would vanish like mist. "My choice has always been you. It never changed." I didn't resist, letting him hold me, even shamelessly indulging in his familiar scent. 5 years, and I still hadn't learned how to refuse Jian Zichuan. Jian Zichuan told me that he was only 16 when he first came to the Jian family, desperately trying to please everyone and everything in order to gain protection. Jianyang was a crucial part of this. She was my stepmother's only child, and I had to please her in order to establish myself in the Jian family. She seemed to lack love, and her reliance on me gradually exceeded normal boundaries. She would use various methods to drive away any women around Jian Zichuan. She would pretend to have a relapse of her illness to force Jian Zichuan to admit that he loved her and that he would marry her in the future. Once Jian Zichuan got angry and ignored her, she would deliberately make herself sick, forcing Jian Zichuan to put aside his work to be with her. I had suspected before that Jianyang was mentally ill, and now it seemed to be true. Before my stepmother passed away, she entrusted me to take care of Jianyang. To prevent me from going against her wishes, she gave more than half of the company's shares to Jianyang. Over the years, I've been under her control. Jian Zichuan said that after he became involved in the company's affairs, he realized that his stepmother had left behind a mess, and he had to figure everything out on his own. He was completely bound and unable to extricate himself. Fortunately, over the years, things have gradually improved, and he has gradually freed himself from the constraints his stepmother set. Qing Qian, can you trust me to handle this matter? I hesitated for a moment before nodding. In reality, I wanted to ask him, even if the assets could be divided clearly, what about the feelings? After all, you and Jianyang have been siblings for over a decade. Can you really draw a clear boundary with her? Reality quickly told me that Jian Zichuan couldn't do it at all. The investigation into the rumors about me has been cleared up, and the police went to the hospital to find Jianyang. At first, Jianyang denied it, but later the police showed the surveillance footage, proving that she took advantage of Jian Zichuan's inattention to copy the photos from his phone and spread them in more than 10 WeChat groups, even impersonating a passerby to spread malicious rumors about me. I glanced at Jian Zichuan and whispered, "Why do you keep those old photos?" He looked innocent and said, "To look at them when I miss you." The police tried to take Jianyang away for questioning, but she resisted fiercely. These photos were originally hers. What did I do wrong? I just want everyone to see who she really is. Don't be fooled by her. This person is truly insane. More and more people gathered to watch the commotion, crowding the hospital room. Worried about the disturbance, the police forcibly tried to take her away. "Brother, don't let them take me away. Brother." Jianyang struggled desperately, showing such strength that she didn't seem like someone who had just recovered from a serious illness. Seeing me in the crowd, she pointed and cursed, "Qing Qian, you bitch. You lied to me, saying you and Jian Zichuan were over? My brother promised to marry me, and you're still interfering." Jian Zichuan stood in front of me, coldly facing Jianyang. "Had enough? Whether the promises I made to you were sincere or not, can't you tell?" She covered her ears as if in breakdown. "I don't want to hear it. What right do you have to say these things? It was you who came to provoke me in the first place. Your poor father brought you, a little pauper, to curry favor with me. I only reluctantly accepted you guys because of that. You've been eating and living in my house for years. If it weren't for my family accepting you, would you have what you have today? I shouldn't have pitted you poor people from the gutter." Before she could finish, she suddenly convulsed and passed out, leaving behind a crowd of shocked onlookers and medical staff rushing to her aid. This time, Jianyang really fell ill. She had faked illness so many times before, but only this time it was almost fatal. The cardiac intensive care unit was quiet at night, with the instruments beeping and the patient's heavy breathing playing a melancholy melody. Who would have thought that this seemingly calm place had to deal with death countless times, every day? Jianyang lay inside, with countless tubes inserted into her body, looking like she was on the verge of death. Jian Zichuan was outside the intensive care unit, handing me a settlement agreement. Her health can't afford any more turbulence. "Qing Qian, even from a doctor's perspective, I hope you'll sign it. If compensation is needed, you can name your price." I looked at him, my eyes slightly sore. I thought I was crying, but when I wiped my eyes, there was nothing. Something settled in my heart, yet at the same time, it felt like something was missing. Slowly, I realized that this was what disappointment felt like. Strangely, even though I had been through this once before, going through it again still hurt so deeply. Is this what you made me believe, that you could handle this situation? His eyes were filled with sorrow, his voice faint and light. I thought I could, but I found that I can't reconcile with Jianyang. Qingqian, maybe someone like me doesn't deserve anything. 5 years ago, and even now, it's still the same. It's time for me to wake up from my dream. Jianze Chuan has resumed taking care of Jianyang. Since our last encounter outside the intensive care unit ended on bad terms, we haven't seen each other alone again. Sometimes, through the surveillance cameras, I see him combing Jianyang's hair, wiping her face, and helping her bask in the sun, looking peaceful and calm. Strangely, a bizarre sense of relief wells up in my heart, though I'm not sure what I'm relieved about. The list of doctors assigned to rural areas as part of the urban-rural pairing program has been released, and my name is prominently listed. Given that few doctors are willing to go to rural areas, coupled with recent events, the hospital is eager to send me away. After packing my belongings, I boarded the slow train that runs only twice a day, bidding farewell to this place where I've spent 5 years. Perhaps I am destined to be a wanderer in this life. Strangely, each time I wander, I always have a destination in mind. The new town has a very strange name, Fishwater Town. No matter how many times you say it, it still sounds strange, but strangely pleasant. Here, it rains all year round, and the pale walls and slate-colored tiles echo each other, leaving year after year of imprints. After staying here for a long time, even time seems to have stopped. The only thing that changes is the size of the cockroaches I've killed, reminding me of the differences in each day. Medical resources are limited here, and unexpectedly, the mortality rate in this small town is not lower than in the bustling metropolis. In the face of illness, this world has finally achieved equality for all living beings. I gradually understand what Director Zhang meant by tempering my character. I no longer insist on making patients remember me, but instead learn to say to them, "Congratulations on starting a new life." I adopted an orange cat, given to me by a little girl named Chi-Chi. She was also an orphan who was brought to our hospital because of heart disease. Afraid that the surgery would fail and she wouldn't be able to take care of the kitten, she entrusted it to me. "Sister Chung, I'm here to see little Orange." The little girl spoke with a soft Wu dialect as she bounced into my house. "Slow down, you're quite mischievous." I complained, but in truth, living alone was cold and lonely. Over the past 2 years, I had gotten used to her sudden visits. With her around, I wouldn't feel too lonely. "Sister Chung, I'll tell you a secret," she whispered. "There's a weirdo downstairs." I was startled, and my hair stood on end. I quickly closed the curtains. "Chi-Chi, what does that person look like?" She thought for a moment, then hesitated, wearing a black trench coat, wearing sunglasses, tall, with a straight nose, and he looks. "What does he look like?" "Kind of handsome." I peeked through a corner of the curtain and looked downstairs. A man was standing across the street, like a utility pole, occasionally lifting his head to look in my direction, then lowering it again, lost in thought. "Do you see him? He's really weird, right?" I nodded and said indifferently, "Looks like an idiot." In the following days, the weirdo stood in the same spot, wearing the same sour expression. People passing by would always be startled by him. But whenever I passed by, he would suddenly become tense, like he just borrowed a set of limbs and didn't know where to put them. I pretended not to see him, hurried home with a cold face, and wished I could weld the door shut. However, Chi-Chi couldn't contain her curiosity and went to strike up a conversation with him. "Are you crazy?" "Then are you stupid?" Did Sister Ching hit the nail on the head? "Not crazy or stupid. Could you be mute?" The weirdo looked at her for 2 seconds, then suddenly exclaimed, making a shocking and terrifying face. Chi-Chi was so scared that she burst into tears and ran to my house, rolling in pee along the way. 2 minutes later, I pushed open the window, yelled at the top of my lungs at the weirdo downstairs. "Jianze Chuan, are you fucking crazy?" The man paused for 2 seconds, took off his sunglasses, and looked at me cautiously. The news spread throughout the town. Dr. Chung brought the weirdo back home. This whole situation, even Dr. Chung herself found it absurd. Weird uncle, you should have said you were a friend of sister's. Don't worry, I know this town the best. I'll be your guide. Chi led us around the town. She chattered excitedly with me while Jian Chuan followed behind us, neither close nor far, still silent. Chi whispered to me, "Sister, is the weirdo really not right in the head?" We turned to look at Jian Chuan, who was stuffing his mouth with the osmanthus cake he had just bought, and 2 seconds later, he choked and rolled his eyes. At the end of the town was a temple, dedicated to the local deity. Passing tourists would always come in to pay their respects, and the small temple was always bustling with incense. "Can we ask for anything?" Jian Chuan asked Chi. Huang Daxian delights in helping people. As long as your heart is sincere, it will definitely be effective. He nodded, knelt on the cushion, and devoutly kowtowed 3 times before the statue. On the way back, Chi was too tired and fell asleep. Jian Chuan carried her on his back, and she didn't even wake up, like a plush toy with its batteries removed. The osmanthus flowers by the roadside were in full bloom, and the fragrance became even more intense after dark. The crescent moon hung high in the treetops, and the stone path was quiet and silent. Jian Chuan followed slowly behind me, deliberately keeping a distance. Halfway there, I suddenly stopped, and Jian Chuan almost bumped into me from behind. "Cheng Qian." He spoke softly from behind me. "I just wanted to come and see how you're doing." Before he could finish, I turned around and gently kissed him. That day, we kissed for a long time, as if trying to make up for the lost years. All those moments of happiness, suffering, and love from the past became like a dream, and we both knew that life had already passed through countless mountains and rivers. I didn't ask him about Jianyang, whether she was alive, insane, or dead. I no longer blamed him for his repeated choices, for why I always came last. I understood that there was a word in this world called responsibility. Everyone has responsibilities they cannot escape, and sometimes they have to pay a price for certain choices. Chuan, in the past few years, I often said to my patients, "Don't forget me," but slowly I realized, I'm a doctor, how happy can memories related to me be? After coming to Fishwater Town, I told every recovering patient, "Congratulations, you're starting a new life." Chuan, I've said this to too many people. Actually, I really want to hear someone say it to me. I smiled, tears already streaming down my face. I didn't know what Jian Chuan was thinking. I just felt a mix of sorrow and relief in his eyes. Finally, he gently wiped away the tears from my face with his fingertips and smiled at me. "Cheng Qian, congratulations on starting a new life." Chi woke up the next morning. Sunlight streamed through the cracks in the clouds, illuminating the gloomy earth, making everything sparkle. Looking around, she scratched her head and asked me, "Sister, where's the weirdo uncle?" "Gone." "Huh? There's still so much delicious food I haven't taken him to eat. Next time." I took out a red velvet box, carefully wrapped the cat necklace, and sealed it deep in the cabinet. I once threw it into the trash can in front of Jian Chuan, only to fish it out in the middle of the night, enduring the stench. Now it's time to bid it a final farewell. "Sister, isn't this your favorite cat necklace?" "Yes, but I already have Chi." I pointed to Chi lying lazily on the floor, basking in the sun and grooming herself. Upon hearing my voice, her eyes widened, and she meowed before coming over to rub against my leg. The road ahead is long, but there is always a way back home. From now on, singing along the way, facing wind and rain with unwavering determination.